and you are absolutely listening to the George Espinlove Show, coming to you live from the Funny Farm. Now, with no further ado, here comes Georgie!
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. To you that are down the street, around the corner, across this nation, and around the world, you're listening to the George Espinlove Show, coming to you live from the Funny Farm in a place called Our World. We welcome you tonight. We have several things going on. One of the wonderful things is that we have a guest tonight that will probably be controversy to many of you. It will be thought-provoking to all of us. Now, I want to say this. Before we even bring our guest on, I want to say this. You may not agree with anything he says. You may agree with some of the things he says. And then you may agree with all the things he says. But whichever category you fit in, hang in there with us. Because here on the George Espinlove Show, we like to have hard-hitting, thought-provoking guests that'll get our brain housing group stirred up, and we can do our own thinking. I do want to say, before we even go any further, as I say so often, the views and the opinions expressed are those solely of the guest. They don't necessarily reflect the opinions of the host. And so, since I said all that, I'm going to say this. Mr. Poe, welcome to the show.
How are you doing? Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're going to have to help me with your first name again.
Okay, yeah, the easy way to do that is Rahasya, but it's actually pronounced Rahasya, so whatever fits you.
Rahasya.
Yeah. That'll do the trick.
I had the R-A-H part down. It was just the last part I couldn't quite get right. So it's...
Yeah, it's a Sanskrit name that actually means mystery. It was a name that I picked up while traveling to India.
Rahasya.
Rahasya.
Okay, I got you. We have been experimenting with some new methods here. So if you hear anything that's not quite kosher, like a buzz or a hum or a bang or a boom, and if I don't hear it and you hear it, just holler at me and say, "Hey, George, I heard a whatever it was."
I'll deal with it.
We're in the process of moving some things around and getting some new methods here. So thus far, and I better knock on wood, thus far everything has been going well. And I probably shouldn't have said that. That's like saying the quarterback hasn't thrown an interception in 168 attempts, and the next ball he throws is an interception.
Well, I've been warned.
Yeah. That's the great thing about radio. We just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah, makes it much more exciting.
Yeah, yep, spontaneous, I think, is the word. Because actually it's in the spontaneity of life that the truth actually does slip out, because it's those synchronistic sort of subconscious moments when your mind is tapping into that collectiveness that it releases thoughts. But if I tried to do these kind of radio interviews, this came up when I did a interview with Coast to Coast, because George was asking me, he says, "So you have all your notes?" I go, "No, I don't have any notes at all," because it comes out better if you're spontaneous with your answers. Because if it's down to a script, and I've listened to radio interviews where people do a script and pretty much a preset, and it's okay, but it lacks vitality, and it's sort of dry and cold, you know? So, yeah, I'm all for spontaneity and just letting it roll.
And I couldn't agree with you more. I like that. And ladies and gentlemen, am I going to say it right? Rahasya was on Coast to Coast. Was you on once, or have you been on several times?
Nope, just once, and they're bound to have me back here probably within the next month.
Great. Coast to Coast with George Norrie. Us here on the East Coast gets him very, very early. So us early birds that get up, like me, I get to listen to him, and I like to listen to that kind of stuff because it really it makes you think, and that's what you're going to do to us tonight. You're going to provoke us to think.
Yeah, and the first step to thinking is stop believing everything you hear. And actually, this is a little bit touchy of a subject, so might as well warn your listeners right now, because Coast to Coast wasn't going to have me on because of the subject matter of my book. Even for Coast to Coast, they thought it might be too conflictive with their audience, but they were pleasantly surprised. You can listen to that whole interview on my website, which is RahasyaPoe.com. And in the interview, I had several calls from people in the South, Christians, and only one of them was a lady that was a little bit disturbed, because when you start talking about people's beliefs that they're basing their eternal existence on, and you're saying it's possibly not true, it really can shake a lot of people up. But what I have found out in the process of writing this book, actually, is by dismantling all of the beliefs that was given to me as a child. I grew up in West Virginia and the Bible Belt, and I was pretty indoctrinated into the Christian religion. And what I found as I was growing is I couldn't figure out, why is it I felt separate from whatever the creative force is in this universe. And what it was all of the dogmas and the beliefs and the religion and the priests and the preachers, and they were all in the way. And when I removed those, I was actually able to feel a connection in my heart instead of my mind. So for me, my book was about my path towards simply starting to think again and feel again and connecting my heart with my mind. And there's a lot to that, too, with like heart math here in San Francisco. They've been doing a lot of research and realizing that our heart actually has more neural connections leading to our brain than our brain has leading to our heart. And our heart picks up subtle energy fields, pulsations from other people's mental and emotional thinking and feeling microseconds before our brain picks it up. And this is hard science. So I think as we open up and start waking up to the more higher levels of consciousness, we're going to start seeing that it's our heart that starts awakening. And this is the crux of what religion should be. But since we've canonized the thoughts and all of the writings back in the year 300 AD, nothing can change from that point on. But the world goes on, and science goes on, and evolution goes on, and consciousness and spiritual enlightenment goes on. Everything is so different right now that people aren't relating to the old dogmatic beliefs of, actually, they date back to the Iron Age. And I think people are starting to get truly enlightened. And as we do, we're going to start seeing that, this is truly at hand, and we must awake in this world to enter that kingdom of heaven.
I told our listeners, excuse me, I told our listeners that, and I've told them often, there's three kind of people. There's the people that'll believe everything that someone says. Then you have the people that believes some of the things that someone says. And then you have the third person, or the third type of person, that believes Nothing. And they just say nah, you know. But
Right.
I told them when we opened the show, if you're in that third category where nah, you know, it's the nah section. I call it the nah section. Don't leave us. Stay with us because
Right.
just open up your mind. And I put on our radio show page this afternoon, or maybe it was on the dooflicky that we put on before the show, that this man is going to approach you from a direction that you've probably you've probably never been approached before, and you're going to hear things that are going to be controversial. But hang in there with us. Who knows?
Yeah, and I think it's important too, George, for people that are non-believers, basically skeptics.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in a sense, that is a belief. Like I've met atheists. They say I don't believe in God. Well, what they're doing though is they're believing in no God, and that's just as absurd as believing in an invisible being too. And you've got to open up your mind and take down the filters. Like we know neurologically now that once you set up a belief, what happens? There's a neurological and a psychological aspect to this that gets pretty interesting. And if you don't know this, it can be very dangerous when you're starting to evaluate what's happening in the world, what's happening inside. Because what happens is we set up beliefs usually pretty early. I was pretty lucky. I had a couple of absurd moments when I was about 6 or 7 in Sunday school that sort of broke that chain of indoctrination to some degree and left the door open for me. Basically, I was going to Sunday school. First Sunday, the Sunday school teacher was teaching us in Genesis that God had created everything, all the living animals and the people, and he was really well pleased. And I'm a little 6 or 7-year-old going, oh, good, I've got a happy God. You know, this is a good thing, you know. So the next week I go back there, and we continue on, and the same God tries to drown us all. And I'm going, oh, wait a minute here. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So it broke something in me to not accept every single thing that I'm told as I'm told and to start questioning. And what that does is it keeps you from identifying with your beliefs. That's the reason when we meet a Christian, a Republican, a Muslim, it doesn't matter what your belief is. It could be nationalism, political, it could be religious. We say, I am a Christian. I am a Republican. And it's that identification with your belief or belief system that becomes dangerous, because unknowns to most people, as you form a personality that's attached to a belief system, that personality is a figment of your imagination. When you say I am, well, that I am is usually based upon all of your different beliefs and experiences. But what happens in that identification is you get real defensive. So when somebody says something about your religion or your political party, you take it very defensively and you lash out because you feel like you're being attacked. And you could even have the feeling that you're going to die if this person takes your belief from you, because that belief is you. And I don't think that most people really realize how devastating that is, because at that point, what you're going to do is set up neurological filters. We know this now from functional MRIs and neuroscience research. We set up filters in our neurological network that actually filter out concepts, words, and ideas that conflict with the previously held belief that we've identified with. So a lot of times, that's the reason if a Christian's ever talking to a Muslim or vice versa, and they give them all of the information on, like for a Christian, it's easy to talk to a Muslim and show them how absurd it is to think that you're going to go to paradise and get 72 virgins if you kill an infidel, and it goes on and on and on and on. And the very opposite can be said to a Christian. You know, how absurd it is to have a virgin birth and being resurrected and coming out of your grave alive and well. But what happens is the logic does not get through, and people feel attacked. And when they feel attacked, they go into an offensive mode, and this is the basis for almost every war that we've had on this planet. At its very heart, at its very root, is a monotheistic belief system that somebody is trying to protect. And now here we are in the 21st century with advanced technology, and these belief systems are deeply embedded into our politics, and our politics are deeply embedded into the military-industrial complex. So we're not playing a game anymore with spears and swords and bows and arrows. We're playing a very dangerous game that if we don't start waking people up, and it doesn't mean that they're wrong. It doesn't, like when I'm talking to a Christian, I'm not saying that I know something that you don't. I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm just saying, let loose of your belief. Dismantle that belief, and let's all work together on using everything that we have collectively, spiritually, emotionally, and go out and start finding the truth, even if we have to start from scratch again. Because I think most people just forget that these books go back millennia, and they go back to tribal people that were actually tribal warriors out in the middle of the desert, making a lot of this stuff up. And the thing that's important for people to realize too, that if you come to me and you're hungry, well, I can tell you about a great restaurant and a great meal I had last night. Well, the same thing holds true to somebody that comes to you and says, hey, I have the truth about an experience that happened to me. And we're reading about experiences that happened thousands of years ago, like Moses with the burning bush. Well, if that was a real experience for Moses, then that's good for Moses. But like that meal, we have to have our own meal. We can't read about somebody else's experience and expect to be nourished by that. And it can actually keep you from having your own experience. Because if you think that just believing is going to be enough, it stops you from searching and doing that inner search and having your own experience. And this is where we are today. We have a lot of people that feel lost. They're spiritually starving for that experience, even though they're holding the Bible or the Quran or the Kabbalah or Vedic literatures. It doesn't matter the book. What matters is what you have experienced as a sentient human being in your consciousness right here, now, today. That's what is going to help wake you up and connect you with whatever the creative source of our reality is.
You say that, excuse me, when you're talking about be you Republican, be you Democrat, whatever shingle is hanging over the top of your head, is that an identity first and then a belief, or is it a belief that brings about an identity? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it's sort of like what comes first, the egg or the chicken. I think probably they sort of both evolved out of the same thing. Mm-hmm. We develop personalities around anything that we're doing, because it'd be more appropriate to call us human doings instead of human beings. Like, for instance, with addiction. One of the big problems with addiction is as a person goes into the addiction process, they develop a personality that allows them to do things that they wouldn't normally do, to be devious, to lie, cheat, steal, rob, whatever it takes to support that addiction. And they start feeling that they are that personality. And that personality feels attacked if you start talking to them about going to rehab, for instance. Because now what you're talking about is actually killing that personality. So the first thing that has to happen is that personality has to be dismantled and broken down. And some of the better rehab centers actually do that. You know, through meditation, through certain kind of somatic therapies, you can start breaking down a personality that's attached to an addiction. But our personality is attached to everything. And what people don't really realize is what they're really looking for is what's doing the looking. We constantly look out into the world to find out who we are, and we forget that what's doing the looking is what we're actually looking for. And so there comes a point with anybody that's spiritually minded to turn that vision inward and start looking inside. And when you start doing that reflective process, that's when the real work really starts. But you can't do that if you're trying to look through filters and patterns that are based upon old belief systems that you have never had any experience with. And this is where it becomes a spiritual seeker can really get frustrated and stagnant and just give it up.
If you don't believe in anything, then how can you believe in something?
Right. Well, this is where it gets tricky because we use the word belief and believing so generally. And I would suggest this. I mean, we all have to start somewhere. Like, I believe that there is an existence, and based upon actually quantum physics and science and evidence, I would have to say that there's some kind of a consciousness that permeates through the fields of matter, space, and time. Now, what that consciousness is, whether you want to call it God or Yahweh or Jehovah or Allah, that can really be limiting. And I think as we go into this, we start seeing that, okay, you have to start with the belief that I am. We have to start with the belief that there must be some kind of an organizing factor around this. And another word for belief is intention. If you can use the word intention, like science has shown through random generators and several experiments that the intention of a person can actually influence matter. This started way back with the double slit experiment. They noticed that if we look at a photon, if we observe it and expect for it to be a particle, it will be a particle. If we expect for it to be a wave, it will be a wave. Now, if our consciousness from the observer can have an effect on a photon, that means that the collective consciousness of this planet could have an effect on the outcome of our daily lives. And this is a belief, but it's a belief that's based upon some science, and I'm not identified with it. If somebody could show me that that's not true, I can let it go. I'm not truly identified with it. But the beliefs I'm talking about are the hardcore, dogmatic, canonized religious belief systems that have been organized and put down in books, and now it's become so attached with religion and state that it's hardly, you can hardly separate it at some point, especially in some countries. They become a theocracy, and it becomes dangerous when you're basing those kinds of decisions on such flimsy of evidence. I mean, if any evidence at all. So there's a separation there of beliefs. But yeah, I agree with you. It gets confusing. You know, like I believe that there are such a thing as UFOs, but it's based upon the fact that when I was 10, I seen a UFO, and it's based upon the fact that there's thousands of photographs, and the Disclosure Project from Stephen Greer, he has almost 400 top scientists and congressmen and flight attendants and pilots willing to testify that they have seen UFOs. There's a mountain of evidence for that belief. But, you know, I don't get locked in. I don't say, I know that UFOs are going to come tomorrow, because I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a feeling that they're probably going to show up at some point.
Are there any absolutes?
You know what? I think this gets into a paradox, which means we're probably getting pretty close to the truth. If you stop and think about this, I was in it was a logics class, and it was sort of a logics and philosophical class in college, and the teacher said, I want you to come up with one statement that completely undermines itself. And I came up with rule number 1. Nothing is absolute. And I turned it in. He says, well, that's a little short. You're going to have to explain it. I said, well, if rule number 1 is nothing is absolute, then that means that rule number 1 can't be absolute either. So I think we're into a slippery slope when we try to pin down an absolute, especially linguistically. because our language is based so much upon the third dimension and right and left, up and down. But the consciousness, the realms that we're going into, defies language pinning it down to an absolute. So I'm not even too sure I could even answer that if I knew for sure if there was an absolute or not, because I don't think our language really allows for it.
That was pretty neat. I like that. Don't ask me to tell you what you told me, but I was following you. I was going with you.
Yeah,
That was pretty neat. I like that.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing. Matter of fact, if you have any scientist will tell you that nothing is absolute, because once you say that something's absolute, the search is off. And there's an old saying that you cannot prove a hypothesis. You can only disprove it. And what that's basically saying is that truth has an organic flow to it. It is an evolving kind of a thing. And it would be looking out your window at the tree and saying, okay, what I see right now, that tree is the absolute truth of what that tree is. But that's not true. It's a living entity. It's not an event. It's a process. It's a seed. It's going to produce seeds. It's growing all the time, and it's dying and living and producing leaves. And what we do with a truth, if we try to pin it down to a God or a belief or anything, it's like taking a snapshot and saying, okay, that's the ultimate truth. But it can't be, because truth is a living entity. And I think even in the Bible, anybody that's really into the Bible, when I did my book, I interviewed so many biblical scholars and rabbis, and it gets up to a point where most of them tell you, no, these are just stories, but embedded within this story is a living truth that seems to change throughout time with people. That you have to let go of the format and the rigidity and the dogma of these so-called holy books to really pull out the living truth that's embedded within it.
What do we do with things such as, for instance, when you refer to the Bible, when Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, no one comes unto the Father but by me. Now,
well,
he was saying, I'm the way, I'm the truth.
Right.
So he was saying there is no other.
Okay, let's just say, for instance, that he actually did say that.
Mm-hmm.
We have no way of knowing what he actually said because he never wrote down anything, and most of the people around him didn't write down anything except Thomas, and the church kept that book completely out of there because Thomas was the doubting Thomas. But let's just say that he did say that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have to, if you're going to take it as a matter of fact that what's in the Bible is the truth, then you also have to go to the other parts where he said things like, don't be amazed, ye too are gods, even as I am. And you're going to do these things and even greater things. So if he's saying that I am the light, but he's also saying that he's a God and you're a God exactly like him, because that's what it says in the Bible. He says, you're a God exactly like I am. Don't be amazed at this stuff. Well, he's saying that every single one of us is the way. Once we get connected to that light. But what happens is these things, like one facet of the Christian church will grab a saying like that, pull it out of context, and build a whole religion around that one saying, and they sort of just they just don't pay attention to the other parts. But if you pay attention to it, to all of it as a whole, I think what Jesus is saying is that we're all in this together. We're all gods, even as he is, and we're going to do some really great, amazing things. And we're all the way. If we look inside, he said the kingdom of heaven is within. It's here, right here at hand. You can't point to it because it's a different dimension, but he's saying it's right here. And I think the other important thing he says is that you must awake in this life, in the spirit, to enter the kingdom of heaven. And so many, and this is where I think it gets a little dangerous for religious seekers, because if you buy into the fact that all you have to do is have faith and believe, and when you die, everything's going to be shown to you, that circumvents everything that Jesus was saying. He said, in this life, you have to wake up to enter the kingdom of heaven. And I think that a lot of people miss that fact, and they just live a life of complacency and just kick back and think that all they have to do is Sunday morning they go to the Sunday school, then they go to church, and they give their tithes, and when they die, they've done their bit, and it's all taken care of. And they forget that they're not doing their inner search. They're not doing the meditative experience of the creative light that's inside them.
Doesn't every human being need some kind of a belief system?
Well, that's a belief. You know, I was told that too when I was a young kid. Well, boy, you got to believe something. But I'm starting to wonder about that, because here's the thing, George. Maybe that was true during a certain time. Like when we look at indigenous people and tribal people, we sort of gauge their level of development based upon their superstitious beliefs. And let's face it, most of our beliefs are superstitious. If they weren't superstitious, we'd be able to prove them, and they wouldn't be beliefs. They'd be facts. So maybe, I mean, just open up the possibility here. Just open up to this. Maybe we're evolving consciously to a level to where we no longer need to pretend like we know things that we don't. Maybe we're entering into a level to where we can embrace the mystery, which may always be a mystery, by the way, but embrace the mystery as what it is, an eternal mystery meant to be lived and experienced, and not just making up beliefs about it so we don't have to ask questions about it anymore, and we miss out on the whole experience of living that mystery. And I think this is important, living in the world we're living in, because like Einstein said, we're never going to come up with the solutions from the same level of awareness that created the problems. We have created a world around us so complex and so ridiculously dysfunctional that there is no possible way that from this level of awareness and consciousness, we're never going to be able to fix it. We need to wake up from this nightmarish dream we call life to another level of existence, so we can come up with the real answers to fix some of the real problems. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but we live in a world with a dysfunctional government, religions that simply do not answer any of the most basic, important spiritual questions. We have so many crooks in the banking and corporate area. The media is totally controlled. What we have to work with, we don't have enough to fix what's going on. We have a fiat money system that is totally bankrupt, corrupt, and bound to fail. Historically, this money system has been tried so many times throughout history and has never, ever once in history worked. So we're right on the verge of letting everybody realize that. It's actually already bankrupt. That 2008 adventure we went into with the financial collapse and bailing it out with mountains of money was only a Band-Aid. But that was just a blip on the screen to what's coming. Because the whole financial system is going to fail. And this is another important aspect of dismantling your beliefs about everything's going to be okay, you know, the American way will always survive the way it is. We're totally loved in the world that surrounds us. We're not. We're not okay. And it's not going to continue on the way it has been. And I know this sounds negative, but if you stop and think about it, it's the only thing that's going to save us. We have to completely dismantle and let everything collapse, because the way the Western world is going right now, and even China and India, the way we're going, we are going to use up every single resource on this planet, and we're going to kill every lake, stream, river, ocean. We're going to pollute the atmosphere. We're going to pollute the food supply, the water supply. Everything is going to be so bad if it continues on like this. But if we can collapse the system and make us start going back to basic living again, and because as I look around in my office, I don't need probably 80% of the stuff that's sitting around me right now. And all this stuff requires resources, requires energy. And we need to get over this. It's just so I have to sort of question that. You have to believe in something. Maybe we have to believe in the basics of, we're good people. We're meant to do good things. There's some kind of a creative force involved in all this. But as far as having to believe in a belief system, I think that is the biggest and divisive, most conflictive and harmful thing that human society has ever come up with, is allowing a certain elite group of a society, whether it's the witch doctor or the priest or preachers or rabbis, to say that they know the ultimate truth of life and they have a connection with the God or gods that created you, and through them you can find your salvation. I think this has created so much conflict in this world. Like, even as we're speaking right now, there's over 22 religious wars going on the planet right now that are based upon one group saying they know the ultimate truth and the other group saying, no, you don't, we do. We need to get past this. Otherwise, advanced technology is going to end it all for us.
When you say, and I agree 100%, the whole thing is it's going to come crashing down around our ears, and there's no way that we can stop it. But yet at the same time, don't we have to believe? There's that word again. But don't we have to acknowledge that there is good and there is evil? So if we acknowledge that there is good and we acknowledge that there is evil, don't we believe that there is good and believe that there is evil? Did that make any sense?
Yeah, and it's a good question, George, and it's one that I toss around in myself all the time. But what I keep coming back to is the fact that we live in the third dimension, and in the third dimension, with all the electromagnetic forces of positive and negative, that has a dramatic effect on our thinking. We automatically think that up can only be up because there's a down. We automatically think that good can only be good because there's the evil. But as we evolve consciously, there are people waking up to a new level of awareness where good and evil is a blend. And here I agree. There seems to be good and evil, for sure. But if you follow the evil acts back to the person, and you really go to that person, I don't think there's ever been a person on this planet, Genghis Khan or Hitler or anybody, that has got up of a morning and said, okay, I'm going to do the most evil things I can possibly do today. They all think that they're doing good deeds. For whatever twisted, warped reasons, they think they're doing good things. And I think as we grow up and evolve consciously, we're going to start seeing that there is a level where you look down upon this and see that it's just misinterpretations and what we see as evil. If you look at goodness like light, well, what evil is the absence of light. And it doesn't have a reality on this higher level of being. And all you have to do is put light into the darkness, and you see right away that it wasn't real. Like I can have a shoebox, and inside that shoebox there's a lid, and I know it's dark inside there, but if I open the shoebox up, the darkness doesn't come out and permeate my room and turn my room dark.
Right.
There's no reality to that darkness. And I think as we grow spiritually, we're going to see that the only reality that evil has is the reality that we give to it and the power that we give to it through thought and through our actions. But if we can put conscious spiritual light on what we call evil, I don't think that there's a quote-unquote evil person on the planet that couldn't be turned towards the light, because I think that all of us want to do good. And I have to go back to that. But you're right, on this level there is a good and evil. But I think this level is transmuting right now. I can see it happening all around, and I think, like the word apocalypse, it's been a hijacked word by the Christians, but originally apocalypse actually means in Hebrew a lifting or a thinning of the veil. In other words, there will come a time during this time when the veil will get so thin that we're going to start seeing into this other dimension, this higher awareness of consciousness. And every indigenous people on the planet talks about this. The Hopis, the Dogon tribe, the Mayans, the Aztecs. They all talk about this time as a lifting of the veil, a changing of consciousness, end of the age. And I think as we approach, actually within this next few months, we're going to start seeing a lot of things become more clear. And we're going to see how we were seeing the world before is going to seem real childish to a lot of us as we look at it from a more elevated level of conscious awareness. And with that elevated consciousness comes compassion and empathy. And with those feelings, it's going to be far more difficult to persecute an enemy or even have an enemy. And it's going to be a lot more comfortable to love your enemy. And I think that's a pretty good saying by Jesus. It's too bad nobody ever really does that. That's a tough one. But I think there's going to come a level of conscious awareness where we can actually do that. And if you can truly love your enemy, that enemy disappears. They can no longer have conflict with you. You cannot have conflict with somebody that's giving you unconditional love.
I agree with that. Excuse me. What do we do with people such as, and you mentioned Hitler, that had such a hatred for the Jewish people, and Ahmadinejad, I call him the little midget of Iran. Those people have such a hatred of the Jewish people. Their intent is evil, isn't it?
Yeah, and asking me what to do about this, this is above my pay grade, man. I don't know. It's sort of like going up to a hornet's nest and beating it and stirring up all the hornets and saying, what should we do now? Well, you shouldn't have stirred up the nest to begin with. But now we've stirred up a hornet's nest in the Middle East, in this conflict between the Jewish people and the Palestinians. Here's the funny thing. I have talked to several Jewish people and Palestinians, and do you know not one of them has ever been able to tell me what really started the conflict?
I believe that.
Do you know what started the conflict? Bill Moyers says that this is the oldest family feud in history.
Yeah.
What started this conflict is Abraham went out on his wife Sarah with Hagar. Hagar was the housemaid. And, Hagar was probably a pretty nice-looking housemaid, and he went out on his wife, and he had an illegitimate child.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that illegitimate child in Hagar was the beginnings of the Arab nation. And what happened is Sarah got on the phone to God, however she connected with God, and she told God, look, God, I can't handle this. You've got to help me get rid of Hagar and this illegitimate bastard child. And God said, oh, okay, calm down, just put him in a wagon, take him out to the middle of the desert and drop him off, and we'll just let him die. And she said, okay. So she got her servants, they took him out, dropped him off, left him. But they didn't die, unbeknownst to God, I guess, And that first child of Hagar was the beginning of the Arab nation. So now the Arabs are saying, hey, wait a minute here. The Gaza Strip and all this land that God said that he gave the Israelites, well, the Israelites are the Israelites because they're the children of Abraham, and we're the children of Abraham too. But the Israelites are saying, no, you're not. You're the bastard child of the handmaid. Mm-hmm. They're saying, no, Abraham was our dad. And this is what started the feud in the first place. But now it has become so involved, so complex, with so much advanced technology and bombs and it's become ridiculous. But until they can drop those original beliefs that they're special and chosen, and until the Palestinians can drop their beliefs, they're never going to figure this out. They're never going to live in peace until they wipe the other one off the face of the map, and that's simply not going to happen. So it's going to be an eternal war between these two groups of people until they can grow up to a higher level of consciousness and let it go. I mean, it's like 3,000 or 4,000 years old. I mean, I have a hard time holding a grudge for more than a few days.
Yeah, I had a man, excuse me, I had a man that was a former terrorist on my show who became a Christian. And, of course, him and his family and his, those around him, they all live here in the States now, but they have a bounty on their head and so on and so forth. And he said they have a long memory. They never forget. Do you think that it's going to end in catastrophe between? Of course, we'll get sucked into it. Do you think it's going to be a catastrophe, or do you think that's going to be avoided?
I think this way, George. If things continues the way they're going, and we don't evolve consciously and go through some kind of a conscious shift on this planet, I think it's going to end in a catastrophic, apocalyptic mess where there's going to be several atomic bombs lit off all over this planet, cause a nuclear winter, and is going to wipe out most of mankind.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think is going to happen without this conscious shift, which is why I wrote my book, to try to get people to tune into the fact that not only is a spiritual conscious shift important, it may be the only thing that will save us as a humanity. Because if we can get enough people to spiritually wake up on this planet, I think it will eventually meet a critical mass where it will bleed over onto everybody on the planet to some degree. I know there's a part in the Bible when they're talking about Christ coming back to the earth. Well, they're not talking about Jesus Christ. It wasn't even his name. They're talking about Christ as a level of consciousness. Christ consciousness is the same thing as Buddha consciousness, or this enlightened field of awakening. And they say when Christ comes back to the earth, Christ consciousness, every eye shall see him. And I think what those prophets, those seers, visionaries were envisioning was they were going into the future and seeing something happen that they couldn't quite understand, but it looked like everybody on the planet could wake up. And if we can do that, then all these childish feuds that are no more important than the Hatfields and the McCoys. I mean, it's not important that Abraham had a affair with his maid, and why should I pay for that in my life at this particular date anyway? These are such childish reasons to go out and drop atomic bombs on people. I can't even hardly articulate the words to express the disgust I have for some of these reasons that people are going to war. But yeah, I think it's going to end really bad unless we can wake up spiritually, which is that's the reason it's important. Shows like yours is to get people to start thinking again, going inside and having their own conscious experience, because every single one of us that can have a conscious experience, a loving experience, a feeling of empathy and compassion, it feeds into the conscious collective grid and has a subtle effect on everybody. And we know this now from scientific experiments that are being conducted all over the planet with things like random generators. We know that collectively we are connected in a very, very special kind of a way in a field of influence that permeates every single breath we breathe. And that's our way out of this. And I don't see that we're never going to convince these people to stop fighting. They're both completely locked into their rigid belief systems, and all the logic in the world isn't going to do anything, and they're willing to die for their beliefs, and they're willing to kill as many people as they can kill before they die. You cannot reason with people like that. You cannot do it. All you can do is sort of alienate them and put embargoes on them and keep them from developing nuclear weapons. And if we could get the United States out of its involvement with them, because let's face it, us, Russia, and China, we're the ones producing all the armament that they're using. And this is part of the military-industrial complex that Eisenhower warned us about. That's the reason we need to get people really involved in politics that aren't religious and simply want to live a good life and start seeing what's really happening behind the scenes. Because if I say my government, that's almost a joke anymore. It's not our government. Our government belongs to the corporate structure of Lockheed and General Dynamics and General Electrics, all of these big military corporations that are making massive amounts of money for war. And until we get them out of our government, we're not going to see the end of war. Until we get Monsanto out of our government, we're not going to start seeing genetically unmodified food, getting our organic food. We just went through a thing here in California where all we wanted them to do is label the food that it was genetically modified, because everybody deserves to know if they're being poisoned or not. And you know that we could not even get enough votes because of all the bad publicity and the out-and-out lying commercials that they put on. They spent millions of dollars saying that it was ridiculous, it's dangerous for the food industry, and all we wanted them to do is, if it's been genetically modified, to put a little sticker on there saying it's genetically modified. We can't even get that because Monsanto is embedded into our government. Some of the top executives of Monsanto are now sitting on the board and CEOs of Food and Drug Administration and overseeing committees and oversight committees. And so we need to start paying attention and waking up, and we can't do that unless we take our blinders off, let loose of all the things that we think are really important that our grandpa told us, and start looking at the world today as it is in this moment, and start dealing with what we call reality out here amongst the people I know. But people's reality can really be warped and changed if they're looking through filters. And again, this is going back to why I wrote the book.
And the book is To Believe or Not to Believe, the social and neurological, I'll get it, consequences of belief system.
Yep.
Where can they get the book at?
Well, you can get it on Amazon, or you can go to my website, which is Rahasya Poe, RAHASYAPOE.com. And if you want to order it from there, I can just send you an autographed copy. But it's on Amazon.com, and just go to Amazon and look at the reviews. There's an amazing amount of reviews from actually some pretty famous people on there that have read the book and said, "Yeah, this definitely breaks you out of what you're into and give you a fresh look of life." You know.
Go ahead.
There's one part in the book called "Women of the World Wake Up," and I devoted one chapter specifically to women, because whatever the powers that be, whether it's the Illuminati, the secret government, or just a bunch of grumpy old men with billions of dollars, whatever it was that they're counting on, they weren't counting on two things. One is the internet, which is what we're using right now for the free exchange of open and honest information. And the other one is women waking up and actually going into positions of influence and power. I think once women really start waking up to the fact that they've been living in a patriarchal society and have been suppressed and burned at the stake, literally, for centuries, for just voicing their opinion or cooking with herbs, once they start getting a little bit pissed off and get out there and start raising their voice, which they're doing. You know, if you look at some of the social movements right now, look who's behind the movements. It's women, because they're waking up and they're realizing that, okay, You guys have had your shot with your patriarchal, dominating aggression, and it's not working. And a lot of men are now going, well, you know what? You're right. And we're starting to listen. We're starting to listen to that feminine input, that feminine energy. And as we do this more and more and come into balance, not go all the way to feminine, because that's just the pendulum swinging too far. We need to come into balance and use the male and female influence in a balanced way, in a nurturing way. Because if we can do this with nurturing, we're going to start taking care of the planet. We're going to start taking care of the babies. I mean, as long as we're just sitting around and there's 30,000 babies today that die to starvation, as long as we live on a planet where we're letting 30,000 babies a day die and we're not really saying anything about it or doing anything about it, we're really not living at our high integrity and moralistic best, to say the least.
I've often said that, you know, they say man has become so smart, so intelligent, but I have often said that I think man has degressed instead of progressed, because I don't know any other way to put it, but we are just messed up.
Oh yeah, and there's actually hard science to lend credit to what you're saying. I did an interview with Michael Cremo, and he wrote a book called Human Devolution. And you know, he's a scientist, researcher, archaeologist, anthropologist. He knows his stuff. And there's a lot of evidence that says that we are devolving, and we have been devolving for about the last 2,500 years at least. It seems, it just seems. It seems like what happens is we're in the precession of the equinox. It takes 26,900 years to do a complete precession. And during that time, there's 4 different yugas. And we just come out of the dark ages, the Kali Yuga. And we're just now starting. It's going to take 2,000 years to peak. But we're starting to go into the golden age, the age of enlightenment. Now, at this point, maybe we will start evolving again. But for the last 2,000 or 3,000 years, we've been devolving. And something happens at a certain point to where we almost lose consciousness. That's the reason looking back, the Egyptian civilization was built by a high-level society, high consciousness. And all of a sudden, it seems like everybody, they even forgot how to read their own writing. So, and since that time, we've been devolving all this time. So it really got bad during the Dark Ages. And now for the past 50 years, it started leveling out a little bit, and now we're starting to wake up again. So I think there's hope. But we need to really be careful and not let some of these fanatical morons light off a few atomic bombs on us. Because if that happens, the game's over. You know, that's going to change. That's going to be a game changer. And my wife and I, we just got back from Brazil. And Brazil's a little bit upset right now because the Bushes have our military down there. They have a military base in Paraguay, and the Bushes are buying up Paraguay, and they're starting to buy up the headwaters. They want to buy all the water. And I started asking around up here, why do we have politicians that's going that far below the equator buying up land and water? And come to find out, there's a pretty accepted theory that if there is an atomic war, it's probably going to be on the upper latitudes of the planet. And the way that the airflow goes, it sort of goes down and wraps around and comes back right there at the equator. So the nuclear and radiation fallout on the southern side of the equator is going to be far, far less, because there's not going to be probably no atomic bombs lit off on the far side of the equator. They're all going to be at these upper latitudes. So our high-up politician and military people are already planning and thinking about the potential of this happening. So, again, this is where it gets really important to pay attention to what's going on, do your inner work, become a conscious spiritual being, because if you're sitting in, Okie, Oklahoma, or some little no town in the middle of nowhere, you think, what in the heck can I do? Well, you can do a lot, because as a man thinketh, so is he, and it does permeate out, and it connects, and it resonates with this collective field that surrounds this planet, and it has an effect on everything. So we need to get everybody up and doing this. We need to get everybody to start actually doing unto others as you'd had them to do to you, and loving your neighbor. These little acts of kindness, and do a meditation. Meditation is so important. And I live in a pretty progressive, liberal, spiritual community, Chico, California, and here I bet one person out of 100 maybe meditates. But in the major cities, one person out of 1,000 would probably be lucky to have a person that actually once a day sits down for 20 or 30 minutes, goes inside, and tries to quiet their mind. Just that one little act can do a lot of good for the planet.
We're moving faster than a speeding bullet, and
Yep.
People jump in bed at night and say, okay, I'm going to bed. And then they lay there and toss and turn because their mind is still racing about things that happened earlier, and things that's going to happen tomorrow, and it goes on and on and on and on. But you're right. I agree. People need to sit down and quiet their mind. If it's just a few minutes every day, get a hold of yourself. That get a grip. When somebody says get a grip, we use that as an old cliche, but there's some truth to that. Get a grip. Get a hold of yourself. Slow down. Bring your mind back in here. Put it back in your head where it belongs, and use it to think. And just slow down. Be still. Be still. You're not going to miss nothing. I'll guarantee you're not going to miss. You think you are, but you're not going to miss nothing.
Well, the Quakers used to call it the still, quiet voice. I mean, how are you going to listen to the still, quiet voice when you go inside your mind and it's just one random, repetitive thought after another?
Mm-hmm.
Did I take the car keys out of the car? Oh, I need to check the oil. I wonder if the kids are coming by tomorrow. It's just constant bombardment. And if you really pay attention, I tell you what, if you really want to check out what insanity is, sit down sometime with a piece of paper in front of you and a pen, and you say to yourself, okay, no one is ever going to see what I write here. Matter of fact, after I write it, I'm going to read it and burn it, throw it away. Sit down there and do nothing but sit there for 5 minutes and write down quickly just everything that comes to your mind. Don't even think about it. Don't read it. Just as it comes to your mind, write it down. Keep writing and writing and writing and writing. And then go back and read it. And if somebody would give you that piece of paper and say, who do you think wrote this? You'd say, well, obviously somebody in a mental hospital. It's just a bunch of crazy random thoughts. And this is what goes through your mind every day, every minute. And then when you go to sleep at night, the dreams kick in and your mind starts dreaming all these random thoughts. Very few people can sit down and simply quiet their mind. Einstein said if you could do that for 15 seconds, you would increase your intelligence many, many, many times what it is. Just 15 seconds. If you could absolutely quiet your mind, it just won't happen. Your mind kicks in. And this is the ego personality that, the more esoteric forms of religion, like the Gnostics and the Sufis, this is what they're talking about when they're talking about the ego personality constructs that need to be broken down, because that's the unreal part of you, and that's what keeps you from being able to have reflective consciousness and see the real you, which is actually the person that's doing the seeing. It gets a little tricky, because as you're doing this, your mind doesn't want to do that, because what you call your mind is your personality, and your personality knows in the depths of its knowing that if you ever quiet your mind, it is the death of the personality. So it doesn't like to do that because it doesn't want to die. it wants to live. And the only way it can live is, and Eckhart Tolle talks about this, the only way that ego can live is to, it doesn't care. It could be through pain and suffering. It could be joy and happiness. It could be love and hate. All it has to do is do. And as long as it can keep on doing some kind of thoughts, some kind of feelings, it can stay alive. But if you can just quiet that and just let it go, you start seeing that there is an essential part of yourself, the true you, that I don't think very few people come in contact with during their lives. Usually it takes some kind of a trauma or a near death or even a death experience. Maybe at the moment of death, some of this stuff happens automatically, for all I know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not willing to wait and gamble, hoping that it happens as I'm dying.
No. Wow. There's just so much to cover. Listen, I want you to come back again. Excuse me. We'll stay in touch, and I want you to come back again, and I want you to talk about some of the things like the extraterrestrial beings and the just some of the things that let's say most people would say are weird things.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm giving a lecture this weekend on the Disclosure Project and the fact that the government is getting close to disclosure now. So yeah, that would be great.
I'd love that. Ladies and gentlemen, let's see if I can say this. Rahasya?
Yeah, you got it.
I got it. RahasyaPoe.com. That's RahasyaPoe.com. Go there, and there's some videos on there. There's all kind of good stuff on there. Go there and keep an open mind. Don't shut your mind. If you shut your mind up, you're not going to go there. If you go there, that means your mind's already open. So just go in that way. Go in with your open mind. There's a lot of things there. It will cause you to think, and there's, trust me, there is much more. We, regardless of who we are, we all have questions. Excuse me, Rahasya. The older I get, I should have trademarked this or branded this saying, because I've been saying it, I don't know, forever. The older I get, the only thing I know is that I don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly what Plato said, practically on his deathbed.
People sometimes look at me, or when people greet one another, a lot of times, I was in the excuse me, I was in the construction industry for a number of years. And, the guys be working and so on and so forth, and somebody'd say, hey George, what do you know? And I'd say, the only thing I know is I don't know. And
yep.
Sometimes if they wasn't, if their brain cells wasn't firing right, they'd just look at you like you had two heads. But of course, there's a lot of people whose brain cells aren't firing right. But the older I get, the only thing I know is that I don't know. It has been a delight, my friend. This is a topic that could go on and on and on and on and on. I wish you all the best in whatever you do.
All right, George.
All right, buddy. We'll keep in touch, and we'll get you to come back at a later date.
All right, George. You take care.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
And there we are. Let me hit the magic button there. And there we are, ladies and gentlemen. Rahasya Poe. Go to Rahasya Poe. That's RahasyaPoe.com. Rahasya Poe. And like I told you in the beginning when we opened this show up, there are people that will believe everything you hear. There are other people that will believe some of what you hear. And then the third group are the people that won't believe anything. I don't care what you say. what you're talking about, they're just not going to believe you, and that's all there is to it. Wow. And this conversation can go on, go on, go on. Controversial. There may be a lot of you sitting at home scratching your head, or you might have jumped up at one point or two in there and just shook your fist at your computer or your iPhone or your tablet or whatever you're listening to this show on. Shook your fist at it, said that's absurd. There's, but listen, if he got any kind of reaction out of you at all, be it you became upset, you scratched your head, you rubbed your chin, you said, all those reactions that come, then you're still alive and you're still well, and that's what it's all about on the George Espinlove Show. We want hard-hitting, thought-provoking people to come on and give us something to think about. And here's what I do. I guess I can explain it the best way like this. Every now and then, of course, my grandkids, they all know that Pop-Up, of course, that's why we're on the funny farm, that Pop-Up's, lost it a long time ago. But I come home one day, and there was a couple of grandkids here, and I said, guess what I just saw? Well, they said, what? I said, I saw an alligator climbing a ladder. Well, right away, they said, Pop-Up, you're crazy, you lost it, you're out there, you fell off the deep end and all those things. Then I left them say all that, and then I looked at him and I said, have you ever seen an alligator climb a ladder? Oh, Pop-Up, there is no such thing. There is no such thing. Alligators don't climb ladders. And this was my answer, or this was my question to them, and it stopped them dead in their tracks. I think the two that was here was probably at the time 12, somewhere around there. And I said, have you ever seen one climbing a ladder? No, but they don't do that. Blah, 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 blah. I said, no, wait a minute. Have you ever seen an alligator climb a ladder? No, but. I said, have you ever seen the space shuttle go into outer space, other than on television? No. I said, but it does. Yes, but that's, I said, just because you can't see something doesn't mean that it can't be something. And then, just for a second, it didn't last too long, but just for a second or two, you could see them both thinking, well, maybe alligators do climb ladders.
Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on that farm he had a cow, E-I-E-I-O, with a moo-moo here and a moo-moo there, here a there a everywhere a Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on that farm he had a pig, E-I-E-I-O, with a here and a there, here a there a everywhere a
But I'll tell you what, old MacDonald didn't have a farm like I have. He had one. He had one of those organized farms, with everything in its proper place, and I have a funny farm. You're listening to the George Espinlove Show, coming to you live from the funny farm in a place called Our World. No specific address. We don't even know where it's at. We just live here. And we invite you to come Monday through Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and be with us. Because you just never know what's going to happen here at the Funny Farm. We might play some very serious music. We might have a very serious guest. We might have one that's just about as goofy as the rest of us. Or we might just play music that doesn't make a lick of sense. We just don't know. Sometimes we plan, but that don't always happen right. You know what I'm saying? We've had some things planned that just fell right through the bottom. But anyhow, it turned out all right. That's one good thing. And we want you to come and be with us. We want you to become a full-fledged loon. That's right. You don't have to buy anything, don't have to sell it or sign anything. Just coming on to the farm qualifies you to become a full-fledged loon. And once you do that, you become a member of the raisin family. Do you like raisins? Have you ever tried raisins? Get you some raisins. Then email me. Or don't get you any raisins. Email me anyhow. George C.E. That's George C.E. at Comcast.net. George C.E. at Comcast.net. Let me find my little gadget here. Oh, okay, I got it. I had to stretch over there. Tomorrow night, I'll bet you that there are people out there in the audience that can tell me who's going to be here tonight. I see you waving your hand. I see you. I see you. Oh, there's one over there. I see him too. I see her. Yeah. Who is that? Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, you got it. Tomorrow night, Nelson Trout. Excuse me. Nelson Trout is a professional musician who has also written a book entitled Blood on the Ceiling. And his book is his writings of his own life. It talks about his addictions, his time in rehab, the bad things as a result of being addicted. And it was called Blood on the Ceiling. Nelson's going to be with us to share with us some of the bad things and the good things that have happened to him, and how he has conquered and how he is living day by day, victorious now, beyond his addiction. He is a talented musician. Sings and plays and writes songs. Songwriters have always amazed me. Now, I write, but I'm not a songwriter. You know what I'm saying? I can't. Them songwriters, they amaze me. I mean, they can sit down and write a song on a napkin in a restaurant in about 10 minutes when they get hit with the whatever it's called. And I think that's so cool. But that's just lovely. Hey, I want to say give a great big shout out to a couple new listeners that I know that's out there tonight. Bobby and Sue, way up there in them dar hills. So Bobby and Sue, it's good to have you. I hope you stay with us. I hope you become an all-the-time listener. And I want you to become a full-fledged loon here at the Funny Farm because, well, that's just the way we are.
Froggy went a-courting and he did ride a hum, a hum. Froggy went a-courting, he did ride a hum, a hum. Froggy went a-courting and he did ride sword and pistol by his side, a hum, a hum, a hum. Rode right up to Miss Mouse's door, a hum, a hum. Rode right up to Miss Mouse's door, a hum,
They're just a couple goofy songs, you know. Old MacDonald had a farm, and what was that? Froggy went a courting. Wow. Hey, I want to ask you a question. Now I'm being serious when I ask you this. Now, listen to me very carefully. Oh, by the way, the chat room's open. Come on in and say hello. Or I don't got the Skype line open tonight because we're almost through here. But come on into the chat room. Just jump in here and say, "Hi, Espenlaub, how you doing?" And I'll say, "I'm fine, how you doing?" And, you know, blah, 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 blah. I want to ask you a question. Now, this is a serious question. I really need to know. When's the last time that you had cows in your kitchen? Huh? Think about it. When is the last time that you had cows in your kitchen? Think about it.
Cows in the kitchen, moo, moo, moo. Cows in the kitchen, moo, moo, moo. Cows in the kitchen.
Come on, everybody sing.
What shall we do, Tom Farmer? Chase them away. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Chase them away. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Chase them away. Shoo, shoo, shoo. That's what we'll do, Tom Farmer. Pigs in the pantry, oink, oink, oink. Pigs in the pantry, oink, oink, oink. Pigs in the pantry, oink, oink, oink. What shall we do, Tom Farmer? Chase them away. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Chase them away. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Chase them away. Shoo, shoo, shoo. That's what we'll do, Tom Farmer. Cats in the cupboard, meow, meow, meow. Cats in the cupboard, meow, meow, meow. Cats in the cupboard, meow, meow, meow. What shall we do, Tom Farmer? Chase him away. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Chase him away. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Chase him away. Shoo, shoo, shoo. That's what we'll do, Tom Farmer. Horse in the hallway, neigh, neigh, neigh. Horse in the hallway, neigh, neigh, neigh. Horse in the hallway, neigh, neigh, neigh. What shall we do, Tom Farmer? Chase her away, shoo, shoo, shoo. Chase her away, shoo, shoo, shoo. Chase her away, shoo, shoo, shoo. That's what we'll do, Tom Farmer.
So there, you have complete instructions of how to get rid of cows that you might find in your kitchen. Oh, don't get me started, because I feel about half loony. That's right. That's right. You're right. I'm on the funny farm. Hey, I want to say thanks again to Rahasya Poe, Mr. Rahasya Poe, who is with us tonight, and he wrote. Let me get my doodad here. Can't do anything without my doodad. He wrote a book called To Believe or Not to Believe: The Social and Neurological Consequences of Belief System. And you can get it at Amazon.com. That is Rahasya Poe, Rahasya Poe, Poe. Go to his website, RahasyaPoe.com. And there you can look at some videos, and there's a whole bunch of information on there. So go to RahasyaPoe.com, and there you can click on the book. It'll take you right to Amazon, and you can get it, and you can sit down, and you can begin to read. Open up your mind. That's what it's all about. That's why we have these things. Of course, I only have 1/2 brain cell left. And some days, I mean on a good day, oh, that baby functions so well. On other days, well, you know.
Play me a country song down an all day long, and nothing better, let me testify. When I hear a country tune and a fairy in June, I can swear I'm on a natural high. Feeling to the good backbeat makes you move your feet, and country women just dance so fine. Let me hear a country lick, if I don't hear one quick, I'm gonna lose my mind, 'cause I don't care about listening to no rap. As far as I'm concerned, ain't on the map. Now I ain't trying to tell you what's right or wrong, but what good is listening to music if you just can't sing along? Play me a country song, darling, all night long. Nothing better, let me amplify. When I hear a country tune at a fair in June, I can swear I'm on a natural high. Add a little steel guitar in your favorite bar, and country women just move so fine. Let me hear a country lick. If I don't hear one quick, I'm gonna lose my mind. 'Cause some people got a nasty habitat. Yeah, cussing every other word is where they're at. I guess I find myself just wondering why. 'Cause if the good Lord gave you to sing, I bet he's listening all the time. Play me a country song, darling, all day long. Nothing better, let me tell you why. When I hear a country tune at a fair in June, I can swear I'm on a natural high. Sing a little harmony like a 1, 2, 3. Country women seem to come around. Let me hear a country lick. If I don't hear one quick, I'm gonna lose my mind. And 3 things that I love most: my girlfriend, my truck, and my dog, with the radio blasting down the road. Come on. Now when the weekends just seem like they're overdue, and one day is like the next before I'm through, and that voice inside my head says please no more. There's only one thing I wanna hear. Just get me to my radio. Play me a country song, darling, all day long. Nothing better, let me tell you why. When I hear a country tune at a fair in June, I can swear I'm on a natural high. Picking to a good backbeat makes you move your feet, and country women just dance so fine. Let me hear a country lick. If I don't hear one quick, I'm gonna lose my mind. All day long, play me a country song.
I like that snappy little country song. That's another thing I want to say thank you to our friends at musicalley.com. Musicalley.com. And as I mentioned last night, there's that frog in my throat. As I mentioned last night, if you're a broadcaster and you're listening to this show, go to musicalley.com. That's musicalley.com. Sign in, become a producer. It's not that hard. All you have to do is give yourself a screen name, like, it's just the normal kind of stuff. Put the URL of your show or your shows down, and so on and so forth. And you can go in there and get any kind of music that you're interested in. Bring it up, put it on your playlist, bring it in, play it on the show the next day or the same night. Go back to musicalley.com. Let them know that you played it with the title of your show, and so on and so forth. And you'll be helping artists that, listen, there's artists in there that's every bit as good. You might not believe that, but there's artists in there that's every bit as good as some of these individuals and groups that's out here performing today. Some of the big draw names. They just haven't. Well, what's the word? They just haven't. They just haven't stepped up another level yet, or a level beyond that. But listen, get in there, play some of these artists. I mean, there's thousands of songs in there. So if you're a broadcaster, and it doesn't matter what network you're broadcasting on, or if you're broadcasting around the world on 150 different networks, go into musicalley.com and sign up as a producer. Use their music. I mean, it's just beautiful. It's beautiful. One more time, I want to say thank you to Rahasya Poe. That's Rahasya Poe, P-O-E. Go to his website, rahasyapoe.com. There you can find his book. Click on the book, and it'll take you to Amazon.com. and you can purchase the book. There's a lot of good things there. There are some videos that you may be interested in. Might be one of those cases where you start to watch the video and you can't pull yourself away. It's thought-provoking. That's what it is. It can make you happy, it can make you mad, but it will have some form, some form of reaction on you. I'll give you my my mum report. Mum, wife Nancy, she is really, really doing well. We are up to, I told you I'd tell you, we are up to the full scheduling of 3 beatings a day. She smacks me around. Oh, yeah, she smacks me around like, yeah, she smacks me around like there's no tomorrow. 3 times a day, she gives me a good beating. I'll tell you what, it feels good to be getting beat 3 times a day again by Mum. And I'm telling you, her hands are just as fast now as it was before she was ever diagnosed with cancer. I mean, she is up on top of everything, and she is feeling so much better, and we're onward and upward, and thank you for your prayers and all your kind words.
Oi, 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 oi.
I pity that dude, I'm telling you. I haven't heard from him in a long time. He just out of nowhere. My buddy Charlie, he's still up there in Pennsylvania, so he's not helping me co-host tonight, and he's not operating the soundboard, and neither is Wilbur the window licker. He's not helping me either. So, ow, man, she'll sneak up and smack you anytime. You see, you just got to pay attention. Even when you're paying attention, oh, see, I was looking for that, but she clocked me anyhow. Mom, settle down. I leave her in the sound booth, and she's over there bobbing and weaving, like she's a boxer or something. And she's really feeling good. Okay? Oh, man. So anyhow, where was I? I want you to know that there's a whole lot of love coming to you from the Funny Farm. Yes, indeedy. We act strange. We're somewhat different. We're all the time goofy. But we really do care about people. And we mean it because we have listeners down the street, around the corner, across this nation and around the world. And we care about people. Red, yellow, black, or white, it don't make no difference. None whatsoever. Email me, George C.E. That's George C.E. at Comcast.net. George C.E. at Comcast.net. Just drop me a line. Tell me where you're emailing me from and how you're doing and, all that kind of good stuff. We've been getting emails from our listeners, but we want more. George C.E. at Comcast.net. No matter what you're going through, it might be a deep, deep, dark valley, or it might be a raging, vicious storm. Something that you've never experienced before in your entire life. Darker than it's ever been before. We're here for you. We care about you. We have an army of people that whatever you need, we'll mount up, and believe it or not, we'll pray for you. We believe things happen when we do that. Wherever you're at, whatever you might be doing, if it's nighttime, have a good night. If it's already tomorrow, have a good day. Join me tomorrow night, same time, same station, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, right here live from the Funny Farm for another show, the George Espinlove Show. Until then, This is George Espinlove saying good night and God bless you.
Bye.